It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is time for another edition of the unofficial 40 podcast right here from Soonerscoop.com, and the entire crew is with us as we head into Baylor week. It's 3 weeks, or we're back to it after the bye week last week, and Iowa State. I think I fixed Josh's audio, by the way, with a push of a button before we started, so he can hear us all loud and clear. Josh, welcome to the fixed audio program.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
Things were going so well for a second, and now we can't hear him.
Let me push another button.
Don't hit
I am recording, I swear.
Don't hit that button.
Maybe we just edit this down.
Yes. Believe that's
or we
what
could
we'll
just
be
start
doing.
over. It doesn't matter to me.
Josh,
we're so far into this
Josh,
now.
can you say anything?
No.
There he is. Okay, we got him back.
Guys, I want you to tell you, this is all on me. I muted because I was typing something, and I know how much everyone loves to hear me type, so I muted it, and literally was 3 seconds ago when I realized that was the problem the whole time.
So he muted himself.
Yeah, so we're good. Completely fixed, but we're almost kind of fixed.
And it wasn't my fault.
Use the C word. We're not close.
Don't. This was on me.
We're hovering.
We're
hovering around.
Because, the question has to be asked by people like, how does Kerry handle all the technology, but he always breaks stuff? We haven't had any breakdowns.
Fair question.
Like, I was thinking about this the other day. We haven't had anything break in like a month.
This is like talking about a no-hitter in the sixth
What
inning.
are you doing? The season's not even close to being over.
If it's going to break, it's going to break.
Yeah, that's true.
Kerry, you played too much damn baseball to have that lack of superstition, sir.
I was a catcher, though. I was like, screw your superstitions. If he keeps throwing what I call, everybody's going to be fine.
We're walking on chalk lines. We're talking about no-hitters in the sixth inning. We're going to start serving up dick balls like the Houston Astros were on Tuesday night in Game 3.
We're not talking about the World Series
not talking
right now.
about-
Game 3 didn't happen.
Boy.
It's a figment of our imagination. It's not part of baseball.
Oh, yeah, because you want to talk basketball.
Yeah, Josh has never been more willing to talk basketball than he is right now, I think.
You're just a community leader in Houston.
Let's go Porter Moser. Think the team looks great.
The team looks great.
Well,
There you
Homer
go.
Bob Prisbillo was eating dinner with the team last night, so. Was that dinner?
How was dinner?
What was that?
Dinner's delicious. It was the same as last year, but it was like chicken, mashed potatoes, green stuff that I don't touch. But I had a lot of chicken and potatoes.
I believe that's called salad.
It's hard to believe that your intestines tried to kill you at one point in your life if you won't eat anything green. Eddie declared it was green bean casserole season.
It is GBC season. I think that we are very close to the enjoyment of it.
Yes, but we're enjoying football once again, and Bob and Josh are here. Eddie and I did the post game, and Bob's, I think you guys got home like 3 in the morning.
3 in the morning.
3 in the morning.
Yep.
And then you were out trick or treating the next morning. I saw the Pearl picture you sent. So.
I was not ready for it.
So this is really you guys' first chance to talk about what you saw Saturday in Ames. We've nobody wants to hear us anymore. We've talked a lot about it. But Bob, let's start with you being there. Obviously not the greatest offense in the conference, the worst in fact, but I would assume you're still impressed by what you saw with the defense.
Exactly, because there's been multiple times in the past where they haven't faced a great offense, but the defense still stumbled. You thought this was a get-right game for them, but that hasn't meant that it's been that way throughout the years, and you just see the confidence building with every takeaway. Takeaway just allowing them to breathe, allowing them, as I said, to not focus on trying to play perfect, not being scared to make a mistake. They've got 5 turnovers last couple games to see if they can carry that momentum going into Baylor. And you just see, when you're giving up less than 3 yards per carry, you're doing something right, no matter what offense you're going against. It shows, as Brent would say, the incremental improvements are being there on a weekly basis here during the last 3-4 weeks.
The defense is now getting turnovers that they don't even deserve.
Yes.
Did they ever show a good replay of the Woody Washington interception in the stadium?
No.
Not in the stadium. I did not realize that it wasn't an interception.
It wasn't until you and Jenny Carlson were both saying, that is not an interception. Like, oh, okay.
Well, I think, Josh, didn't they only show it like one time, maybe twice on TV, but you could tell it hit the ground.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so they had it from the front, like where, I guess from behind Iowa State. And you're like, okay, that looked fine. Like there was nothing there that you could have turned it on. And then the second they went from the opposite end zone, you could see it just fall away from Woody's chest, hit the ground. You're like, that's the easiest, turn, change of call like, that you could ever have. Yeah, overturn. There we go. I couldn't get there. And it just didn't. And it was like, I had people that were like, oh, they're not even reviewing it. Like it all went so fast.
Exactly.
I was like, what's happening?
But they had a media timeout to do something. They never even looked like they cared about looking at it.
I thought that they when they were in the commercial break after the change of possession, I thought they were going to come back and go to review. And then OU starts running out, and I was like, okay. I guess it wasn't because the entire crowd acted like it was complete bullshit.
I got to tell you, you guys are lucky that you were there because the
I've
broadcast
heard that it was exceptional.
They ignored that holding penalty after the Marvin Mims drop.
Well, to be fair, they never announced it in the stadium either.
Okay.
So, like, when OU's lining up for what I thought was fourth down, like I'm inside the camera, I just kept thinking, holy shit, I can't believe they're going for this. And then they ran it,
right?
I think on it would have been 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 20.
It was 15,
it was 3rd and 20, and then they got 5 yards. And I was like, well, that's strange. I must have missed, because they never even announced it inside the stadium.
Yeah, it was weird. But yeah, everybody was lost on that broadcast, and it was just...
From the get-go.
It was awful.
From the get-go. Josh, it was something that you highlighted in the Monday Morning Idiot. I asked Ted Roof about it. I asked Deshaun White about it. It probably is not a coincidence that Oklahoma's defensive line probably played one of its better games, best game of conference play to date, for sure. But it also kind of, I guess, combined with a linebacker group that probably played their best game. I think that those probably go hand in hand.
It's such an interesting thing because they played so well against the run. You're like, wow, they did really well. But the defensive line still created no pressure. So you're like, I don't know how to rank this. I don't know really how to look at it because that's clearly still a fundamental problem for this defense. But at the same time, you're like, most of their schedule, like you look at Baylor this weekend, if Oklahoma can be, they're not going to do what they did to Iowa State's run game. I'm not saying that's a reasonable expectation, but if they can be solid against the run, okay, like you can, you turn that game into Blake Shapen having to make some throws. I think he's shown that's an avenue you can win that game. But if Jeff Grimes and that offense can just line up and run it down your throat, you're done. You're done before you ever got started. So to me, and I thought the guy, and I'm actually working on the Hot 11 as we speak, the guy that just missed the cut for me that I thought really played well was Jonah Lalu. Like, I thought he had a outstanding game. Again, not flashy, but was so good in the run game.
It's funny that they didn't have the pressure that you would probably want against Hunter Deckers, but
when it's more than 50 throws, you've had a lot of chances.
It did, but it also did seem like they had enough. And again, it's not pressure, but he was not comfortable.
Uncomfortable.
He was uncomfortable back there to the point that it did what it needed to do for them.
Well, and the thing that people were like, and I think I heard you guys talk about it on the post game. I was doing some stuff with the girls kind of while I was listening to some of that. There's never an understanding sometimes of like efficiency. Like, yeah, he threw for 300 yards. He had to throw 60 times almost to do it. Like, you'll take that all day. That's like running, he ran for 200 yards. They had to run 90 times to do it. Like, cool, man, that's great. But you're not getting anywhere. Like, you're turning the ball over on downs. You're not getting first downs. You're giving the ball back to Oklahoma's offense. And, to me, like I said, I thought if you're even Hunter Deckers, like, I know he's not great. And I was pretty adamant last week that I thought that Oklahoma should have a good bounce back week. Still, though, to make him that inefficient and all the problems they had in the passing game, Oklahoma deserves some credit for that. I thought the coverage was better than we'd seen it. I talked about it a little bit in the Idiot. There were some, I don't know if you call them banjo stuff, but like they were doing some stuff where, linebackers were handing the receivers off when they'd work vertical. Like you saw better communication. And that's the kind of stuff where you're like, okay, I know not everybody can see this, but it really is improvement. Like they're getting better. They're starting to understand the things they have to do.
It wasn't like, it's not the sexiest thing to talk about because it's basically executing the fundamentals, but I thought Woody Washington tackled really well. Trey Morrison, a guy that you highlighted in the mind. Jaden Davis played well.
Requested Jaden Davis. He had some really nice breakups, and it was nice to see that gap narrowing between when the receiver catches it and where the defensive back is. That's the first game. It felt like, hey, this is what I see in a lot of other games where corners are right there, either breaking it up or not allowing any yards after catch.
We talk about players over the years and kind of how they've just progressively got worse and worse and worse. And I was afraid Jaden Davis was going to be one of those guys where he just no longer was a factor by the time he was a senior. But he seems to be. You want to talk about this staff and the way they're building guys and Billy Bowman came in right away, was a really good player under this staff. Jaden Davis, I mean, to me, he's the first kind of little light that maybe this coaching staff are reaching these players on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, well, we all assumed DJ Graham and Woody were going to be the two corners, and it was kind of startling initially to hear, Jaden Davis is going to get the start to begin the season. Like, yeah, all right, that'll last a week or two, and then he'll fall off like he always does, and someone else will take his spot. He's
getting better.
Fallen off.
Yeah,
he
he's
is
getting
not
better as
off.
the season's gone along.
Yes.
And then you got a guy like C.J. Colton that emerged too.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I had a similar thought in the Idiot, and I talked about it. And the guy that it pointed me to was Gentry Williams, because that play, that deep ball when Gentry doesn't get called for PI, that's the stuff that Oklahoma hasn't done even earlier this year and hasn't done the last few years. He turns to find the ball. He's got a hand on that hip, but he's not flagrant about it. He's not, grabbing or pulling, but he's just kind of guiding Xavier Hutchinson, and he's sitting there running with him. And then at the very end, I couldn't tell if he actually put his arm across Hutchinson or if Hutchinson and he kind of clipped heels and then his arm just kind of happened to be where Xavier Hutchinson was falling. But it was that little nuanced stuff that I don't think we've seen a lot from Oklahoma's secondary. And I saw it from Gentry Williams, and you're like, that's what you're going to get when you get these guys that are growing up in this system, in this plan. Like, these are the little things they're going to do better, where, rather than having to fix bad habits that, that Woody Washington or Jaden Davis or any of these guys have developed over the last few years, you're just getting to start from scratch. And that's what I thought you saw. And I thought it was interesting that, and we can get into that a little bit, but a lot of those young guys, it wasn't like they were getting late snaps where Oklahoma said, we got to get these guys in the field. They were like, these were, hey, you've earned some time. We're going to put you in there in the first half and let you play some meaningful snaps.
Another one of those positive plays, I think it was the fourth quarter right after Deckers had scrambled out of the end zone, right before the Stutzman interception. Jaden Davis fights back and just bats a ball out of the guy's hand that he had caught.
Yeah.
And it's just like little stuff like that. I mean, where this thing's coming from, that's a positive. That's a step in the right direction.
We're moving the goalpost a bit compared to what it was in September. But
you have to.
That's okay.
Well, I mean, you're talking about turning around, finding the football, and defending, and it was just the TCU game where everybody was like, are these coaches know what they're doing? Like, are they even, like Woody Washington?
What are you scared? Just panicking.
Was terrible. Like, it was like, we've seen Woody Washington, and he's worse now. Like, that's what it felt like watching that TCU game.
No doubt about it. And I think that, the biggest thing for them is, again, going this week, and can you build off of it? Can you go each week and be a little bit better than you were the week before? And if they can do that, I think that, as bad as this thing was in October, it feels like they're going to be able to get away with something. Not get away with something, but be able to have a positive outcome in year one.
Guys, this is just like every year. It was like every year under Stoops when they would lose a game. and they would have another tough one after that, and you were like, oh boy, Stoops is finally going to lose 2 in a row. Like, and then he won the game, and then you moved on. It was business as usual. Like, to me, it's not back to business as usual because you had a 3-game losing streak. But if you go in and the defense plays well against Baylor and they win that game, like every game, we're going to say this all year, the next game is always the biggest game.
Sure.
But, I mean, if they can beat Baylor and play well defensively, then you feel like, okay, the rough patch is over for Brent Venables, and now he's actually reaching these kids, coaching these kids, and they're starting to believe in their coaching staff.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about that on Tuesday at Brent Venables' weekly luncheon, just as far as like a lot of kind of big picture questions about the direction
and
of
a 7-minute answer to a Bob Percibillo question.
Yeah, after Bob derailed it. But it was
killed the momentum. Gone.
I thought that like if you can
I like
kind
that
of,
answer, by the way.
if you can kind of get through the bullshit, which, you know, it's not bullshit, but if you can get through all of that stuff, I thought that there is a lot of stuff that you can take away from what Brent said on Tuesday, just as far as you can see kind of the master plan of what he's trying to build right now.
What you just said was, if your soul is not as scarred as mine and you're not as bitter of
and
a person,
much of a hateful person
yes,
as I.
hateful person.
That's right.
Then you might have appreciated what Brent Venables had to say.
Sure.
And
yesterday.
if they can win this one, I think it's time to really look back and see if the players will give some real insight as to what changed after Texas in terms of the practice and the practice reps. Because that was,
I mean, it's obviously a massive change. That they went through,
you know, that was when
you
used that word "tired" that everyone jumped on. It's like, what in the? How can you be saying that in the second week of October when you have 6 more games left? And you know, something obviously changed, and they look fresh. I know they had the bye week too, but they just look like a much different team. We all say if Dillon played, they wouldn't lose 49-0. They also wouldn't beat Texas because that team looked defeated even going into that game.
Sure.
They don't look that way now.
Yeah, and if he wouldn't have got hurt against TCU might have scored 70.
Yep.
Like, it was just that kind of day.
Yeah.
So, fatigued. I think everything was just fatigued. Mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever you want to say. Like, they needed that week to get away. And, you know, coming out of last week for the 4 quarters that they played, they looked pretty damn good. On the other side of the ball, it's like, you know, I don't know if you can necessarily – it's so weird to say this, but Dillon Gabriel throws for 158 yards, the lowest of his career in any game. And you walk out of this saying, like, I think he played pretty well.
He did. He needed Marvin.
And Jeff Levy called a really good game. He had a really good game plan. Like, that was the best part of the press conference yesterday is Brent's story about, you know, Jeff Levy and saying – you know, these offensive coordinators,
that ain't working.
All these offensive coordinators, they got all these plays, all these great plays. They're trying to get to the next one. And I just, you know, he basically just said, hey, you know that play that worked really well? Run it again.
There were some really unique looks that they gave Iowa State as well, and kind of building for maybe the future here over the next couple of weeks of some stuff that they can release on people. I know, Josh, you kind of highlighted a bunch of that in the Monday Morning Idiot, just as far as different stuff that they can maybe set up here over the next couple weeks.
You know, it was interesting because Carrie and I mean, we don't really talk during the game, but I kind of went and looked at some of the stuff that he was talking about, and we were almost in line because, and I want to say even somebody else who I can't remember, almost, I want to say within like a 3 or 4 minute window, it was like Jeff Levy is throwing some stuff out there right now. Like, he had some incredible calls. I loved the reverse where they faked it to Dillon Gabriel. Like that, I will bet money that comes up again. Like that will be seen in some capacity. And I talked about it. Like, you could do so much off of that where Drake Stoops kind of comes out and he runs a post back behind the linebackers who are just flying up to Dillon Gabriel, and they're flying up on that run action. And, you know, I had some people say, well, he was ineligible on that play. Okay, you can fix that. Like that's it's a true point. It's absolutely right, but you can work around it.
That's what I hate about running the Scoop account, because I'm like, man, Jeff Levy is really calling a good game. And then people are, they only got 3 points. They ain't calling that very good. I'm like, I'm sorry that Marvin Mims dropped the pass right into his chest like twice.
That was the most frustrating thing about Saturday and just the performance offensively. Is it feels like everything for like 8 plays, everything looks great. They're running the ball downhill. They're getting what they want in the passing game. and then they hit like a 2-play stretch, and it's just a lull.
Eric Gray fumble.
Or you get a holding
You
call.
get a holding.
Yeah, like the Eric Gray fumble at the beginning of the game, they were running the ball straight down Iowa State's throat.
That was a ball don't lie
guys.
moment. That was right after Woody's interception.
Yes, it was.
It might have been. It might have been a little bit of karma.
And I tweeted about there was a very real scenario where it's 17-0 Oklahoma in that first quarter. Like they had so completely dominated that game and had the right calls or in the position to make plays, and Marvin Mims just drops one. You know, he had the late in the game that awful drop on third down. I mean, like there was. I don't know what that was, and I said something, and people kept being like, "Well, you know, he's gonna be fine. Like he's good." I'm like, "Yeah, he's a great player.
Yes. But what happened?
If this was him, nobody would care because he wouldn't be on the field. But he is a great player and having a day like we've never seen him have. That's a notable thing." And like I said, would it shock me at all if he drops 200 on Baylor this weekend? Hell no. He's really good.
There was a one of the many deep balls that they weren't able to connect with. The one that he went diving for it in the end zone,
really close.
Third quarter, I want to say, and he just kind of laid there for a second, and you could just tell it's like that was the first time I've ever seen Marvin out on the field like really wearing it. Like he was, you could tell he was going through it.
Well, and I thought it was interesting Monday night when you guys talked to Dillon Gabriel, just him acknowledging like. Yeah, it was a crappy night for Marvin, and he understands that. It's a very mature, relationship there between those two. Like he's not afraid to admit, like I sucked against Iowa State.
Yeah, Marvin before we even started the interview session with him on Monday night, he kind of just took a deep breath and he's like,
"All right, let's go."
I think somebody asked him, "How you doing?" He's like, "Been better. Let's just get this over with. I know I was not good on Saturday. Let me get through this."
And I appreciate him acknowledging that Jeff Levy really stuck up for him Monday afternoon, saying you got to have a short memory because I'm going to with him. We're going to him time and time again. Nothing is changing here.
The line change still, I don't think we've really gotten what I would call, Bob, a true answer on.
I have my theory, and I'm sticking with it because no one's debunked it.
But what is that?
What's the theory?
Like when Coach K would take out the starting five because they're not performing well and just put in the second five, it's a wake-up call. Get your stuff together. Let's go. Because you had Eric Gray's fumble, you had a field goal, and like Josh said, it could have been 17-0 really quickly. Instead, it's just 3. So you're like, all right, I'm going to take all you guys out. Realize you've got to figure it out. Because they've only done it in 2 games, both where the offense was struggling with Dillon at quarterback too. It was the TCU one and now Ames, where in the first quarter it's just not clicking. It's like, I'm going to put these other guys in. They're going to show you if they're going to get the job done. They're going to stay on the field. Now, this was the first time they did offensive line too. You had Savion Byrd, Jake Taylor, Jacob Sexton, Aaron Parks. So it was just a wholesale, just 8 guys, just Rahm, Gray, and Gabriel were the only 3 that stayed out there. But I think it's just sort of a wake-up call.
And then you have people like Josh that just want him to keep that offensive line.
Don't tease me. Don't tease me with a good time. That is, guys. I mean, it looked good. Like, and I'm sure it was almost like a scripted moment in the game. Like, okay, guys, we're gonna run this and this. And it looked good. But man, all with how little they're getting out of the left guard situation, how neither Savion Byrd or Jake Taylor can get a sniff out there, I don't understand. I don't get it. And it's not that Matire or Congal are bad. They're just not going to take you very far. And I mean, neither one of them are NFL prospects. Like, you're not hurting their future. I don't understand how either one of those guys aren't getting 5 to 10 snaps a game just to see, okay, next year. I mean, and it's about next year. It really is. But why wouldn't you give that look so you kind of have some idea of what you're going into 2023 with? That just doesn't make sense to me.
It's kind of an idea of the you could live with the bad when you know what the ceiling could be for years to come.
I just want to point out that nobody, well, I can't say nobody because Gabe does a podcast, but No one else out there is going to care about offensive line stuff as much as Josh does. Yes.
But
That's a fact.
But with
it's
that
a
said,
sad state of my existence.
But with that said, with what the starting line is right now, and I think that you've highlighted this many times, Anton Harrison's playing extremely well.
Yeah, I told people, I think I put it in the report card, enjoy these last games. Like Anton Harrison will not be part of this roster next year. I will be. The only argument I can come up with is if he were to hear, if you'll come back, you could be a top 10 guy next year. Like, he is pushing into that. Like, he's one of the best pass blockers in the country. Like, I don't even think there's a debate about it. And I know Gabe talked about it too. Watching him and Will McDonald go to work, that was fun, man. You don't get to see two legit NFL guys going head to head all that often.
What did you think about Andrew Rame's performance? He's going to have a big test this week.
Oh, man. I mean, you kind of like what we talked about with the defense. Great confidence builder. Like that was, I think that's the highest I've graded Andrew maybe in 2 years. And I'm not saying my grades are anything important. They're not. Like, it's just a gut reaction from watching the game. But I thought he was really good. More than anything, you weren't seeing some of the busts like you saw early in the year when there'd be a free runner or there'd be mistakes from time to time. Like, he just looks like he knows what he's looking for now. Like, I don't know a good way to say it, and I know there's guys that know more than me that could put a better term to it, but like, he's finding where his block, where the block should go, where they should be, what they should be looking at, and he's directing his guys in the right, their eyes are where they need to be. And I think that's incredibly telling. I mean, because that's not a great Iowa State front, but I'll tell you now, like I said, Will McDonald he's going to be a better pro than he is a college player. And that MJ Anderson kid, I'm not going to say I knew a lot about him. He looked great at times against Oklahoma. So I think Rame, I mean, it's a huge challenge. And you talk about kind of his nightmare matchup. Like, Andrew wants the guys who want to shoot gaps and go around and like let his athleticism fight it out there. Boy, with Big Boy, that's not what you're dealing with. You're just dealing with a bull in the middle. And like I said, I think it's going to come down to, is Oklahoma more dominant on the outside or is Baylor more dominant on the inside? Like, I think that's where it comes down to what this run game is going to look like. If Oklahoma can find enough success outside that they can live with the fact that they're not going to dominate up the middle like they did at times with Iowa State.
Yeah, excuse me. I do kind of wonder, like, the way OU's offensive line's been playing is like, if we had to rank it, I would say, from what I've seen, and I could be missing somebody here, but to me, Kansas State has the best offensive line in the conference. I think, I don't know how good TCU's offensive line is. I mean, I think it's got to be pretty good, but Duggan can kind of, cover up some of the weaknesses there. I mean, Oklahoma, they might have the second best offensive line in the conference as things stand right now. I mean, we've talked about how well they're playing, but here's what I liked about Iowa State. When you play Iowa State, you have to be intelligent, like you're talking about with Rame. Like, you have to get to those linebackers really fast. And their linebackers aren't as good as when they had Mike Rose and those guys. They're solid, but like, I just saw an offensive line that was getting out there on defenders and keeping people off the running back. And I can't say that I've seen that in recent years from OU's offensive line when playing Iowa State.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there was, I think it was a play, I want to say it was Rame, where I talked about like what a great job he did working out to the second level, because he picked up a little I'm almost certain it was him. He picks up this combo and then just kind of slides out to the Orion Vance kid, and it sprung the play. I mean, like, he and I think Harrison kind of sealed the edge, if I'm remembering the play right. You end up going over a lot. But that was the thing. Like, you could tell. And, I mean, some of that, like you said, you have to acknowledge some of it is because Iowa State doesn't have the guys they've had at linebacker. That second level is kind of big and bulky and doesn't move around like it used to. But, again, I'm I was a huge Mike Rose fan, as we all know. So, I just thought it was better. I thought Chris Murray was solid. The only guy I really had a problem with was Wanye Morris. Wanye had there was a 3-play set in the second quarter that was awful. I mean, just awful. And it cost OU, probably would have had, on 2 of the 3 plays, they probably score if he just does what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, those are 3 clips, or about a 3-minute segment from the Monday Morning Idiot that he will not be putting on his resume.
I just wonder moving forward, like Baylor, them being a little bit more stout defensively, will we continue to see the Wildcat and goal line situations? Because I think they should. I think it's time.
There's some obvious problems that they have when they get inside the 5. And I don't know if it's just not being able to move people, or is it play calling, which, Jeff Lebby, he kind of
happened 2 weeks in a row, Kansas and Iowa State.
He kind of took the fall for the Kansas game. Didn't really say a whole lot about the Iowa State inside the 5 performance, but I don't think as perfectly executed as the fake field goal was, I don't think that you want to get into a habit of running a fake field goal from the 2-yard line.
Well, and let's face it, Javonte Barnes could have made a difference there too. He
100%.
Yeah,
100%. And the Marcus Major thing's kind of interesting. He doesn't look. We talked about this on the postgame podcast.
Yeah.
He just doesn't.
He looks tentative.
Yeah, and
he doesn't
maybe
look
not
like
seeing things as well.
He doesn't look like someone who plays well if he's not 100%. And that's a problem if you're a running back in college.
Sure.
You're not going to be 100% after September.
I just think
you're never going to be that way.
Rust more than anything with him. He just hadn't been in a game in a month.
Because because Jeff said he's not 100%.
Yeah.
And
if you want to extend it even more, I mean, you're sitting there and it's 20-13. Gabriel had just gotten sacked. You're punting the ball back to Iowa State, and you have Eric Gray in the tent for his, extended stretch or whatever he wants to call it, and which is still just completely strange to me for some reason. And then it's just like they're going to need to run the ball. They still have an entire fourth quarter to play.
And you're like, how are they going to get this done?
Right. And thankfully Eric Gray was able to come back out of the tent. I guess that was before he came out of the tent on the series that Gabriel ends with the sack.
Correct. Yeah.
But obviously, Eric Gray, they need him out on the field. Expect him to play on Saturday, but I don't think you could say the same for Javonte Barnes. I mean, I think Brent said it about
I don't know.
As clear as possible yesterday, just in that, the hamstring thing, you just never know. And he could wake up and it'd be fine, or it could be something that lingers for 2-3 weeks. God forbid it's the next, 4 weeks where all of a sudden you look up and you're getting into December and, possibly a bowl game.
Let me tell you guys. Let me ask you a question. Do you have a stove and do you have water in a pot?
Yes.
Because if you do, you can enjoy a restaurant quality meal anytime that you want, thanks to primeshrimp.com. PRIME shrimp.com. Go use your promo code SoonerScoop and you'll get $20 off your first order. That's better than what they're even offering you on their own websites. That's just for you scoopers. $20 off that first order. No thaw, no mess, no fuss. You just take them out of the freezer. You put them in boiling water. In less than 10 minutes, you've got a restaurant quality meal. And lots of different flavors to choose from. If you're more towards a Cajun flavor, then you can go with the signature seasoned. You can also go with the Louisiana shrimp boil. If you like some other types of flavors, a lemon and cracked pepper is a new flavor for them. Try that out if you've gotten their other selections and like them. Garlic herb butter, one of my favorites, but French Quarter Alfredo is my go-to. And they also have the Simply Shrimp that is completely unseasoned. You can get variety 6-packs. You can get sauce 6-packs. You can get seasoned 6-packs. All kinds of different varieties for you to try. And use that promo code SoonerScoop, and you'll get $20 off your first order from primeshrimp.com. Everybody that's had it on the site loves it. They vouch for it. Great partners with us at primeshrimp.com. We appreciate their sponsorship of the pod. Please go support them. So, Baylor, we've hit on it a little bit. Brent Venables had his press conference yesterday. Bob, I thought you asked him a really interesting question or got an interesting answer about recruiting and all that. But what I took out of what I liked about his answer is his kind of, his thought that there are going to be a lot more players in high school that basically are undiscovered or overlooked because of what's going on in recruiting and NIL and transfer portal and all that stuff. Like, basically, you can fill your roster anytime you want now just through the portal if that's the way you want to do it. And you might not have those extra scholarships when it comes to the December 1st to offer to a high school kid. So there's going to be a lot of kids out there floating around, which to me just is going to add to the parity that we're seeing in college football. It seems like it's growing every week almost.
Yeah, and it's something, heck, we've talked about it here on the pod a bunch. Like, OU's not going to have massive visit weekends because there's no one to bring in. They've got 23 commits. There's not much work to be done. They'll be looking in 2024, 2025, and so we'll bring Josh in. But they're sort of circling back here now. There's been quite a few offers here in the last week or two. Are there any that really stand out? It's like, that's that diamond in the rough that Brent was talking about.
Oh, I mean, I think probably the one, I would say maybe two that make the most sense to me are Jordan Allen, the Kansas kind of two-way defensive end, tight end guy that they've offered in the last week. And then Marcus Strong, the big defensive lineman from Florida that's from the Gainesville kind of area. Those two are guys that, it was what kind of drove it home to me is I was talking to Marcus Strong yesterday, actually. And I kind of want to get into this story because I think it's interesting, but, just kind of briefly here, a lot of these contacts, when it's first made, OU was sending questionnaires to these guys, like through Twitter or DMs or whatever. And, the guys kind of fill out the questionnaires and it's very, I had a guy send one to me, like, what does it look like? And it's football related, but it's kind of, what is your why kind of stuff? Like, what motivates you? Why do you care? What are you, invested in?
The self-evaluation form that he gave to the players.
Exactly. So, and so it was interesting, kind of hearing, them talk about it. And talking to Marcus last night, he was just talking about, being a guy that really he goes, I've filled out a couple of these before, but it's been like a year and a half because most of the schools that are with him have been with him for a while. And, whatever information they have, they already know, and it's kind of already in their systems and that kind of stuff. Oklahoma's kind of new to this race and just knows, okay, like, we still want to know about you. We still want to learn more. And that's because they have stayed involved in this stuff. They are continuing to watch these guys. And he's a kid I watch on tape, and I'm like, that's a good find. I mean, there are times when OU will make some offers at this point in the game where I'm like, you got to have a body. I get it. Sometimes it happens. Those aren't the offers I'm seeing. The Ashton Sanders kid from California, that dude is a bull. If he's 6'2", I mean, let's be honest. It wouldn't be the first time we've watched that the staff currently at Troy, kind of not take full advantage of an in-state guy. So he's a good-looking player. I like the offers they're making. They are very strategic. We've seen in years past where OU would kind of just offer anybody, like, oh, he's good enough, rather than we have a need here and we're going to freaking address it. And that's what you're seeing OU do right now.
Do you think it is reaction to maybe feeling like they're losing out on some of their targets they've been going after, or is it not related?
I think, like, Ashton Sanders, to me, I mean, it's impossible to ignore the timing of Caden McDonald's decision and the types of players there. They are pure nose. Ashton Sanders is not a three technique. He's a big guy in the middle. He's going to eat up blocks. He's going to, just like McDonald, very quick-footed, going to be aggressive. It's pretty impressive to me that they could find a guy like that at this point in the game. And I haven't had a real chance to sit down with Ashton. I'm kind of hoping to get that done today. But he is that one's a direct correlation. I think, and Woke went up just a little while before we started the pod, so I don't expect you guys to have seen it. But one of the things that I think is interesting is talking to Marcus Strong. He kind of referenced, because I thought maybe, he'll take a visit for Bedlam on November 19th. And he kind of said, like, yeah, I kind of get the feeling they want me to come in December instead, a little closer. And I think that's twofold. One is Oklahoma, this staff really wants to be the last visit you take. That's clearly something they find works for them in a lot of ways, or at least very close to your decision point. The other thing that I think is interesting, and it's come out, and we'll give our girl Courtney Rowland some love at the A&M site. Talk to David Hicks, who has confirmed he's going to be coming in on November 19th for his official visit, the one that everybody kind of thought he was going to take. He's going to keep that up. He's going to take that visit to Norman, and Hicks and Strong seem kind of comparable to me. I'm not saying one's as good as the other or anything like that. I'm just saying I think they would fill a similar role. And so I wonder if we'll see where Hicks is. He comes in, and then in December we can kind of decide where we're going to go with Strong. If we want to take, if we feel great about Hicks and we still want to take another one, cool, great. If we don't, maybe one of these other guys we've offered, the offensive lineman that Oklahoma offered yesterday from Coffeyville, like maybe we got to take that scholarship there. They're going to work the numbers, but I've said all along, I expect Oklahoma to sign 27, 28 guys, and the way they're making offers in 23, I think that is their plan. I think that is absolutely what they expect to do. They may push close to 30.
Are we responsible for the NIL plan for Hicks when he gets here? I just wanted to know. Like, Eddie Bob, you might not be getting paid for a while.
Oh, no. But, free meals from all the scoopers out there. They're gonna help you out. We'll start a GoFundMe right now.
You guys will know if I start eating prime shrimp for every meal. No, I can't go out tonight. I gotta eat my my shrimp.
I gotta eat my weight in shrimp.
Right. It's interesting. I mean, the way that things are going in College Station right now, it only kind of reinforces this idea that maybe this thing isn't over. It's only natural to think, things aren't going well down there right now. Would you want to look around? And by the way that it's been reported out of College Station, I think that there is some credence to think that OU is going to get back in on a couple of these guys.
And you can say the same with Vasek, with Texas. If Kansas State goes up, is able to take care of business there, you could look at Texas being 5-4 and OU being 6-3.
It is kind of
Kansas State's an underdog in that game, by the way.
For reals?
Texas is favored?
I think 2.5. Yeah.
Really?
I'll look it up.
It is kind of interesting, just like how quickly things can change. I mean, we're talking about a defense now that is it just like the gap between where this thing was and how we were talking 3 weeks ago to now, even though this might be getting more back into the team stuff, but it's like we were talking to Bob this morning about it, and it's almost kind of amazing that, or is it amazing that, like, is it somewhere in between, like defensively, that this thing feels so much better than what it was? Is that just that you're not playing a good offense in Iowa State? Or are they actually making steps? And I think it's probably somewhere in the middle, like most things.
You want to go, Josh?
I got caught there, Eddie.
He was not listening to you, Eddie.
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
I can say it was legitimately due to something. Ashton Sanders, the guy we were just talking about, just tweeted out he'll be taking his official visit. He'll be there for Bedlam as well. So that is a interesting story. So I was just kind of getting some of that out. Now I know we were talking about A&M, but I missed some.
I'm just saying
we're talking about how the perception of the defense has changed so much in the last couple of weeks. But is it the case that Iowa State is just terrible on offense?
And more so just like overall, like the general feeling around the program and how that leads into recruiting.
Yeah.
Like you would have never have thought that we would be having these conversations
after
3 weeks
Texas,
ago.
even thinking, you might be able to come back in. Instead of being worried about losing guys, the emphasis kind of changed, like, you can get back in it.
Yeah, and even more of a bigger picture just as far as like how quickly things can change in the landscape of college football with what's going on in College Station, what's going on in Austin. It feels like what's happening in Norman right now, and again, we're in this bubble, so maybe we're blinded by it, but it just feels such a better product right now than what that thing was maybe 30 days ago.
Well, it's funny, and I don't know. I won't claim I've listened to it, but there was some talk on the board that our guys at Orange Bloods were commenting like, I think Texas caught Oklahoma just right, like just at the right moment kind of thing, which, guys, I think in our heart of hearts we knew.
Right.
But following TCU, we're like, oh, my God, is this whole thing a train wreck?
I was wondering if Brent Venables could even get this done. Like there was very serious questions. Like
Stewie did a Freedom of Information Act to get his contract to do a story on how much it's going to cost to get rid of Brent Venables.
Well,
I mean, not $90 million.
Like everyone was doing it because of how that was a OU thing more than a Mandel thing.
Yeah, we'll blame Stuart Mandel though.
How can you take away my joy in blaming Stuart Mandel for something?
Yeah, that's kind of weak, Bob. We don't defend. This is an anti-Stuart Mandel podcast.
But he thought he was like being all secretive. Like bunch of beat writers had done the exact same thing, and they got it all at the same time.
By the way, Texas is a 2.5-point favorite on the road at Kansas State.
I don't think it's crazy.
As of Wednesday, 11:56.
I don't think it's
Vegas
crazy
Insider
necessarily,
consensus.
but and Kansas State's kind of in a tough spot coming off of the Oklahoma State win, the quarterback situation.
Quarterback issue.
I would play Will Howard even if Adrian Martinez is healthy.
That's where
that's
the tough spot
the
is.
Crazy thing. Yep. Can you believe you're saying that sentence? Like that feels like profanity.
I mean,
I guess
they don't run the same offense with Adrian Martinez because they don't want him throwing it as much because he makes mistakes when he throws the ball too much.
Still hasn't
to
turned
me,
the ball
Will
over
Howard
this year.
I'm sorry you transferred in, but Will Howard's a better quarterback than you.
Yep. I mean, and especially with what that team could accomplish. I mean, they're looking at New Year's Six bowls. Like they've got a chance. I mean, they could be Big 12 champs. Like, especially if he keeps playing the way he has. If he plays the way he has, and can actually, unlike most quarterbacks, survive a full game with TCU, TCU doesn't want any part of that in another go around.
Well, the other crazy thing is Oklahoma State opens at 6. It's down to 2.5 at Kansas,
and they have some very real serious issues at quarterback. Just as far as things that I've kind of heard trickled down, just as far as what Spencer Sanders' health status is.
Mm-hmm.
And they had their bye week so early.
Right.
They just had to keep pushing.
Yeah. It's going to be rather interesting to see what happens up in Lawrence this weekend. And you
what
would think
their quarterback is,
sure.
who's going to be.
And you would think that Lance Leopold's going to have a pretty damn good game plan coming off of a bye as well. And every game for Kansas, as weird as it is to say this, like this might be their opportunity to get that 6th win and get bowl eligible, because the rest of the schedule, I don't necessarily think that they're going to be able to go out and win those games. So, the Big 12, I think the Bear, Chris Felica said it on SVP after the Monday night game as I was getting up some videos from post-practice. Like, you have to be a little – I think the exact quote was, like, if you're betting on Big 12 football right now, you need to look in the mirror. You have a very serious gambling addiction.
Don't touch any of those lines.
That's pretty good. I mean, Iowa State's a 7.5-point favorite over West Virginia.
Yeah, and I mean,
they haven't won a game 5. They've got 5 losses in a row.
Look at last week. If you thought you had figured out the Big 12, you looked at the happenings out in Lubbock, and you thought, well, Tech's going to go. They're covered. They'll win by 3. They'll beat Baylor by 3, and then they go out. Baylor forces 5 turnovers, and all of a sudden, Bob and I are driving back late night Saturday, listening to that game, and all of a sudden it was 17-3. And the game was basically over.
31-17. There was a comfortable margin the entire time. It's like, all right, this is not going to get us home. This game isn't going to keep us.
So, yeah. But, I mean, I didn't mean to cut off recruiting. I just thought there were some interesting things there.
Yeah, well, I kind of changed the subject. But, Josh, just as far as recruiting goes, like, let's go glass half full, big homer here. Like, how good could this end for Oklahoma? What is a realistic ending to the 2023 class when you're talking about signing 28, 29, 30 guys?
Well, I mean, you keep what you have. Colton Vasek's a huge piece of that. You've got to secure that. And
it feels big that they were able to, like, that never happened. I think if we all walked out of the Cotton Bowl 3 weeks ago, if you would have met me at the car and given me a cigarette and said, what's going to happen? I would have said, well, he's probably going to decommit.
He liked all those tweets like crazy that entire weekend, but he never pulled the trigger.
And guys, I mean, and that's what I like. And I mean, I'm not saying I said anything revolutionary here, but at the time I said the longer this gets away from this game, the better it is for OU.
Yep.
Just the more time he's given to breathe and think about things and like just let it calm down, I think, that's when OU has a chance. If he comes out and says, 2 days after Texas, I've got an announcement coming, it's coming. It's over. Like that story is done. But I think it's telling. Now, I have some expectation he'll be in Norman this weekend. He plays a Thursday night game, so that availability is there for him. I don't know. I have not confirmed with Colton because Colton has gone radio silence on just about everybody. So I don't know how well that'll work. And now, hang on. Now that I'm saying that, I'm like, I think that's wrong in my head. No, he has a Friday night game. I was thinking of it because I have a Thursday, and I've thought about going to see him on Friday. We're still playing that out. But
the state of Texas right now is a lot like Oklahoma in that they're moving. I think I saw Matt Stepp tweet out this morning that like 40% of the games in Central Texas have been moved from Friday to Thursday because of precautionary reasons, because of weather. So that might be something that we look into here.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. There's been some movement. Just for those who are interested, I will be at Melissa at Lovejoy tomorrow.
Oh,
so
okay.
Nigel Smith,
Nice.
Peyton Pierce,
Yeah.
just a whole mess
Absolutely.
of guys. Yeah. There's 5 or 6 guys that could end up holding OU offers. So, and there's 3 I think that already do. So,
You know what could make that trip even better for you? If you're standing on the sideline wearing your Dead Soxies. Deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. Go check them out. Use the promo code SCOOP, and you'll get 25% off your entire order. That's dress socks. That's no-shows. That's the team colorways. If you want some good game day socks, go get some Crimson and Cream. You get the whole 4-pack, and you'll get 25% off. So check them out, deadsoxy.com. Use that promo code SCOOP. Get 25% off your entire order. We all have them. We all love them. Cannot say enough good things about the socks, whether it's the no-shows or the boardrooms. All great socks. Go check them out, deadsoxy.com. Back to your trip, Josh, that you're now more comfortable in than ever.
that was we may have to start a competition for how Kerry can segue. Like, and we're gonna maybe at the end of each month there's a vote for the best segue he has. Like, it'll be the greatest hits kind of thing. But no, so like I said, with Vasek, there's a chance that he's going to come up this weekend. It's something he had referenced in some of our previous conversations. I know he'd also talked about Bedlam. So there's some ambiguity there, and I think it would be really interesting if Vasek did come up the same weekend as David Hicks and, as I said earlier, Ashton Sanders. But you hang on to him. Like I said, I really like Ashton Sanders. I think that would be a really nice addition. I think they've offered the Day McCullough kid, the corner that's committed to Cincinnati. I think that's super interesting. He was kind of committed there when things were a little different with the situation with Cincinnati. His dad's now at Notre Dame. His brother's at Indiana. I wonder if he'd be willing to look at Oklahoma. I've got to think they made that offer knowing that, hey, maybe we could at least get him down for a visit or something, and kind of see where it goes. They've offered the safety at NEO. That's a really interesting offer, and it feels like it's been forever since OU was at NEO.
It is.
Kendall Dolby's the kid's name.
Coffeyville and NEO, it's like we're back in the 90s.
I know. It's crazy. Like, this feels like, this is Bob Stoops energy right here. This is crazy. But yeah, there is, I would think those are key. The Keyshawn Blackstock kid is really good. The Coffeyville kid that Kerry was just referencing. There are a lot of ways for this to go. What I like is they're giving themselves avenues. Like I said earlier, if Hicks doesn't work out, okay, we pivot to Marcus Strong and, maybe further strengthen our Florida recruiting by going in there and getting a quality player. Ashton Sanders, okay, Oklahoma's still present in Southern California. Like, there can be they're building good avenues. And for those that don't know, they might recognize Ashton Sanders and say Cathedral. For those that don't know, that's where Bryce Young was before he went to Mater Dei. He was a Cathedral guy. So there are, that's a program that has produced talent. So, like I said, just kind of, there are a lot of ways this could go. I would think Sanders is really important. I would think Blackstock is really important because they need an offensive lineman who can come in and push Savion Byrd, can push Jake Taylor. They need a battle there at guard to go around Andrew Rame. And then, like I said, we'll see what happens at tackle. I think there's a very real chance that you're starting 2 new tackles next year. But yeah, so like I said, I mean, I think those are key. It's clear they want a safety. The Terrence Love kid is really interesting that he's mentioned in Woke. Oklahoma's starting to kick the tires there a little bit. A Rivals 250 kid that's committed to Auburn. So there, and guys, I have every confidence there's going to be some more offers. Like, I don't think this is, we found 4 or 5 guys, like we'll go in. They're beating the bushes. And I thought Brent's, I didn't really get to touch on it earlier, didn't get to, I just didn't. I thought Brent's comments were awesome because that's a really unique way to look at it, where people are like, all these high school kids are getting passed over and everybody's already moving on to the next class so fast. That's a window of opportunity. And that's how recruiters look at this stuff. Like, fans get, and I'm not bagging fans, guys like me too. Like, we get so obsessed with what's next and what's moving forward. You forget that there's still really good guys out there that nobody has given their proper due yet. There's some kid that Wake Forest is going to sign that is the next Sam Hartman or whatever. Like, there are plenty of good players if you've got the time and the eyes to find them.
So, Josh, we're kind of getting an idea about Bedlam with Ashton and Hicks. We have Baylor this weekend. I haven't heard a lot of smoke about this being a big visit weekend.
I don't think that it is. Like, and that was, I mean, I've got a list kind of going that I kind of keep running at all times, and I need to, of course, I didn't have it pulled up, so I'll stagger for time here for just a second. But there is
Josh Bates said that he was coming in, right?
Yes.
What's that?
Joshua Bates
said he's making the
Bates
trip.
is supposed to be coming in. And there are several others who at various points have talked about it. Devin Sanchez, the big-time 2025 corner that is probably a 5-star from North Shore. Elijah Thomas is one of the really interesting ones. The kid from Chakotah that I think that just picked up an Oklahoma State offer, already holds Arkansas. Another 2025 kid. The other guy, and I need to verify it with him, but he had told me a couple of months ago he was coming in, is the Drew Woodas kid from Tampa.
Okay.
Jesuit, I think. His older brother signed with Clemson last year, and he came and we all saw him. He camped at OU this summer, picked up an offer there. He's supposed to be in there. The other is T.J. Moore, the guy they just offered that is Lewis Carter's teammate at Tampa Catholic. So those guys are expected. Like I said, I need to double back, verify with some of those dudes. But if they make it, that's a solid weekend.
That's not bad.
I'm not expecting any officials to happen this weekend because I still think Oklahoma is working through a little bit of who do they want to be serious about, and B, who is genuinely serious about Oklahoma. Like, they don't have enough official visits to just throw them out the window, especially when you start talking about the portal down the road and some of the decisions they'll have to make there. They're trying to be really concise. And I think if they bring a guy in, I think like the Ashton Sanders coming in, I think that's really telling. I think they feel very good about where they are in his recruitment, even at this incredibly early stage.
So much positivity.
I mean,
Josh hates OU. Come on now.
I'm trying to think of something negative. I want to bring some levity to it.
Well, it did happen as we were driving to Ames. I don't think a lot of people were up in arms because I don't know a lot about the kid.
Legitimately
Caleb Spencer.
I went, who? When Bob said Caleb Spencer decommitted, I was like, who? Oh, okay.
Well, the thing that's worst about this is going to be a double-edged sword for us as Rivals employees. he's ranked as a 3-star, so everybody's like, whatever, no big deal. He's going to get bumped. Like, I'm just going to tell you that's very likely to happen. He's had a great senior year.
Right? Yeah.
I had recoed him like, hey, guys, we need to go back and look at this. He's killing people. And, he had a game earlier this year where he was MVP of the Future Sooners breakdown because I think he had like 19 tackles and like 4 for loss, 3 pass breakups. He had just an incredible game. And, and has done so. What's interesting is what I think started this whole thing was, and I guess we're kind of burying the lead. Caleb Spencer, for those that somehow missed it, decommitted from Oklahoma last week and flipped his commitment to to Miami.
Yep.
And what was interesting is he played, and I believe it was their season opener against Stranahan, where Hakeem Williams is, one of the top receivers in the whole country, guy that was a big battle between Florida State and Miami and A&M and some others. And I know there were some Miami reporters there and several regional guys. Well, it drew a lot of attention. And there were a lot of people that came away like, who the hell is this kid from Virginia, Caleb Spencer? And I will bet you money that's when Miami was like, oh, who's this kid? And that's when the wheels start turning and everything starts to move around. And Spencer took a visit there a couple of weeks ago, ended up, from what I can gather, and I put some of this in the scoop, my understanding was basically that Oklahoma came to him and said, we need to know where you are, man. Like, are you with us? Are you in? Are you out?
Checking the temperature.
Yep. And I think he just said either it wasn't a positive. It was either I'm not sure or I'm going to go with Miami, and they just kind of said best of luck, that kind of thing. And it's not that they don't see that Caleb Spencer's really talented. Oklahoma was in there early. I'm not trying to say they dropped him or anything like that. That's not what they wanted to do. But it's a good position that OU's in because you've got guys like Cade McIntyre. You've got guys like Lewis Carter that I think are pretty similar in a lot of ways, probably cheetah type guys, cheetah safety, kind of how you want to look at that. And so I think it gave them some flexibility, and they may have said, okay, we really like that kid, but now we can take another defensive lineman, or now maybe that's where the offer for Keyshawn Blackstock comes from. Like, okay, now we can take another offensive lineman, or, whatever the scenario may be in their head. It may have freed up a scholarship at a position that maybe they didn't initially like the guy as much as they like Spencer, but it may be a greater need.
Okay.
Just to be clear,
I'm trying to think if
Caden,
there's anything else.
with Caden, they're bringing him in. He's going to start at tight end, but I think we all believe that.
I think you meant Eric
side.
McCarty.
Okay.
He said Cade McIntyre. I think he's got his Max mixed up.
If you care.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that then, Cade. That's my bad, buddy. But yeah, I think with the interesting offer is the Jaden Allen offer. Is it Jaden? God, it's the Allen from Olathe. I'm gonna just butcher all the names I can right here. I think he is interesting because people that know me, like, his film popped up, and I think everybody expected me to say, oh, I like him on defense, because that's just a default setting almost in my brain. You get a big, long athlete, I want to put him on defense. As a tight end, Kerry, he's got some Braden Willis vibes. Like, I think you might like – he is nasty as a blocker. He gets after you. And so I wonder if maybe they bring him in as a tight end. And I've talked to people. I don't think that's set or anything. I think there's some assumption that, they like him as a tight end. I was literally told he's a football player. Like, they just like him because he's a good player. And again, he's committed to Kansas State. Like, hard to argue with Kansas State's track record with those kind of guys. Like, just tough, nasty, good football players. And I wonder if that doesn't provide the ability for Cade McIntyre to maybe move to the defensive side of the ball like Eddie's talking about. Like, I think that's where he's best. I think that's where he's most dominant. I think he can do either one. I'm certainly not saying he can't play tight end at OU's level. I just think his best future is on defense, and maybe offering this kid gives you the availability to make that move.
It's basketball time.
There actually is some rather interesting information as Bob was about to head to the basketball banquet on Tuesday night. Kind of a
3
bomb.
minutes. I'm basically opening the garage door to leave, and I just take one last check at email.
And it was a very short email.
Short, yes.
Kind of a bomb, though. Matt Brady, no longer with the program, OU basketball assistant.
The shot doctor is out. It is reported yesterday he is resigning, citing personal reasons. We have not had a chance to talk to Porter Moser about this. We obviously will later in the week, as the first game of the season is Monday night. I think we're going to speak to Porter Friday to get the lowdown on everything, but huge surprise. Did not see it coming. He's been involved in all preseason talk. He's been, recruiting like crazy for OU. We're less than 24 hours removed from the news. I don't have clear-cut, information on what exactly happened and how it's all going to shake out and how Porter's going to adjust to it. I don't think you really can even bring in just like a last-minute assistant that doesn't have a job at the moment and try to make him part of your crew. You have to divvy up responsibilities with all your other guys that aren't technically assistants, like Matt Gordon, Clayton Custer. Like, they've got enough guys that perhaps it can make it work, but it's almost like Cale Gundy, but it's not. But, yeah, it's another massive coaching change right as you get ready for the season to start.
And the suddenness of it, I mean, it was clearly something that happened very quickly.
Yes, I mean, it was something that came out around like 6:02 last night, and I was told that the players heard after the release was sent.
Wow.
So this wasn't even something like the players found out Monday and they waited to put the press release out Tuesday. Players found out after. It's huge shock because, again, he was noted as someone who was going to be able to help a lot of people with the way that they shoot the ball, and they were excited about what he brought in terms of the East Coast, all the stuff he had from 30 years of coaching on that side of the country. So very just curious, intriguing, use whatever word you want to try to use, and just kind of see how Moser and Sooners adapt from this point forward.
Awkward and strange, and who knows what happened. It's like, wouldn't even want to speculate on it, but it was something that...
At best, you hope it's just strange timing and personal, and you hope nothing's wrong with the family.
Right,
you hope it's nothing like that. You hope it's nothing, really...
But when news breaks,
proper or something like that,
right? Yeah. When news breaks like that, you go. I mean, I think everybody your automatic first thought is, "Well, shit, what happened?"
Because it's 2 paragraphs long. There isn't a quote from Moser. There's it's almost as if you're cutting your ties in a way that not like Auburn with its football that was nasty. But just if
you look at it and go, shit, they had to cut ties. There's something that happened
something
that he
happened
did that
here.
He had to get out. He could no longer be part of the University of Oklahoma.
At least OU used his name, unlike Auburn.
Yes.
That was about that. I mean, that was just it had to have been awkward. There has to be a little part of Brian Harsin that goes, thank God this is over. I know he's getting $15 million out of the deal, but I mean, Jesus. At some point, everybody has to wipe their hands clean.
And
right.
Get paid millions to walk out the door.
He'll get another opportunity. Somebody will give him one.
To continue with basketball, we do have the first game Monday, and we have signing day next Wednesday. I don't know what time that's going to be. I don't hope that doesn't interfere with the pod here. But they already got, Cole that's locked up. That's not a problem. But we are a week away, and we still don't know about Sebastian Mack, the guard from Vegas, and Caden Cooper, the guard in Atlanta, but who's originally from Ada. It feels like 2-team races for both of them. With Mack, it's either OU or Florida State. With Cooper, it's either OU or Bama. And I know OU is digging its heels in with both and not going to let them just walk away. They're going to keep going for as long as this race needs to take to try to get them both. And I don't think they're going to try to get a big from the high school ranks for this class because they like what Sam Godwin brings, transfer walk-on from Wofford, who played at Southmore, and they love what Luke Northweather brings to the table. So when they have to address the bigs, and they will, it'll be via portal.
Sam Godwin's one of those guys. I know it was a very, very, very small sample size as far as what we saw in the exhibition, but full disclosure, maybe it's because he's just a big white kid, but it's like that guy looks like somebody that Moser would have taken at Loyola. Like he kind of fits that bill of he's going to do just about everything. He's never going to be one of those guys that you have to worry about off the court. He's going to do everything right. And, if he can give him the type of minutes that he gave him against I know it was OCU, but if he can give you some positive minutes out on the floor, that's something that you can live with.
Yeah, I was joking while talking basketball. I think the biggest piece that they're trying to replace, and sounds so dumb, Ethan Shagwell.
Yeah.
They have to find who can be that guy who can either – give Tanner Groves a breather, or if Tanner gets in foul trouble like he did often, can play extended minutes and you don't see a dramatic drop-off. Is it going to be Sam? Is it going to be Luke? How's that all going to shake
Shagwell
out?
was such a good passer.
Yes.
I don't think that we probably
His
gave
stats
him enough
didn't
credit.
look it because he'd had that game where he had 4 assists, and then you have the next 2 games where maybe he wasn't as needed or maybe he wasn't playing up to the level that he needed to. So those stats look terrible, but when he was on, he was vital piece, and that's something they'll really have to find.
All right, well, Baylor coming up this weekend. It should be a pretty good matchup. I mean, their defense is definitely taking a step back. Dillon, Gabriel, and the way the offense has been playing, you got to think they're going to put up some points. Next to the last home game, that's going to be big. And I don't know, the weather, is it moved at all, or is it still?
I feel like it's all Friday night.
Yeah,
in terms
I think we're
of
good
severe.
Saturday.
I think Saturday might rain, but I don't think it's anything that's going to.
Saturday morning. I think by 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, it'll be all right.
Now, it is going to be on ESPN Plus, so, Eddie will get the story up on the homepage, how to watch, that you love so much.
You pull out an app, just like everything else, and then you click on it, and you're going to watch the OU game.
So, be aware it's not
Ryan
going to be on
Leaf
cable.
is your color commentator this weekend.
He
people.
did the Kent State game, right? He was here earlier this year.
We're finding out what it's like when the team you follow loses 3 games in a row. TV, you get bad announcers.
Very much so. I did see and it wasn't. I guess it's not particular to Oklahoma, but was it the Houston Cron that put out the story about Texas opening with Houston in 2023 in Big 12 play? We haven't really heard anything for Oklahoma, but I would imagine that Cincinnati.
There's
Orlando,
a belief that OU
Provo,
will go to
one of the two,
Cincy.
one of the 3.
And if it is, I can't wait. That's a trip home for me. I get to stay with my parents the entire week.
We'll go back to all the hot spots that we
Eddie
went to in
staying there
Cincinnati
too?
last time. Yes. Yeah.
This is where Tavion Thomas played one of the strangest high school games I've ever watched.
Good old Tavion Thomas, man. He kind of cut out a career for himself, though. He's
did.
doing well at Utah. And
That was such a stupid trip to fly into Cincinnati and drive to Columbus to go see a kid that's going to decommit.
well, we should have just gone to Brian Asamoah. Like as it turns out, we should have just gone and seen Asamoah. But it was
Thought we were being different.
It was an interesting trip, but the trip did turn out pretty well. That's one of those
Oh yeah,
top 5 memorable experiences
Yep.
at the Horseshoe and all that kind of stuff, and
definitely worth the trip.
got
for
some
sure.
skyline out of it, which
I got
is
some,
what it is.
I got some White Castle.
Yes.
We did have White Castle.
Yeah,
I forgot about
right
that.
through me.
Yeah, it was good though. That was another rush
The
to the
10
airport
seconds it was in my
situation.
body. Yeah, that was Carrie had bathroom emergency and needed to get to the airport at the same time. White Castle, after being up all night, White Castle does not satisfy. I learned that lesson the hard way.
It's almost like you don't take good care of yourself, Carrie. It's almost like
driving back from Columbus. Like we had to get back to Cincinnati to fly out. And it took all night to drive home. I mean, that was a night game. And then the after game was late.
We were starving.
Yeah, we were hungry. So anyway, looking forward to it. Don't forget SoonerScoopStore.com. Go check it out. Like I said, only 2 home games left. You want to fly those Make Lindsay Street Great Again flags. We still have those in stock. And we're fully stocked on the Make Lindsay Street Great Again T-shirts. So Eddie loves to fulfill your orders personally.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're getting from Eddie. He's packing, he's shipping.
You might be able to spell
He's a
my
little
must.
dynamo. And plenty of hats in stock. Unofficial 40 helmet shirts are fully in stock. So Soonerscoopstore.com. Go check it out.
I was very appreciative of seeing Laney in one as well.
Yeah, Josh McQuistion bought them for the whole family, so he's not even listening anymore.
That's okay.
I'm 100% listening. Yeah,
Okay.
no, she was, and I want you to know, anytime I put her in something, she's like become aware of social media. She's like, how many likes does it have? How many like
That a girl.
Like she's very interested in that now.
That a girl.
Oh, trouble is brewing in the McQuistion
Yeah,
household.
I'm gonna send her to Eddie's class on social engagement.
She can just run the TikTok account.
Yeah, let's get her up here. Let's get the whole family up here.
Feeling like OU just giving children jobs that we won't pay for.
Okay, well, Sooner Club's going to come down and beat us up after that. So
Bring it on.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Unofficial 40. We will have an Eskridge Lexus post game because we don't have to go far. We just have to come back to the office and do one. So looking forward to it. Hopefully another OU win, so everybody remains calm and happy. And Brent Venables,
Yeah, we
philosophical
could come back in on Saturday night, and I'm ready to burn this entire thing down yet again. So
Yep.
that is an option.
It's on the table.
All right, that's going to do it. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.